I think I'm really honored to be invited to stand here and share my thoughts about what I would think about how to make transformational change. How should I make this work? It's not. I know we're here to talk about adaptation. You see my title, I've already adapted the Bruce phrase, thinking outside of the box, because I had a different title to come here, but I thought I wanted to change. Like the chair said, he made a lot of changes to his keynote, and I also did, because it's all about adaptation. After yesterday's, I thought something I wanted to share. Because coming from UN background, I wanted to remind you, although repeated by everyone, says what the global scale of what the business we're looking at. We're talking about SDGs. You know, all those assessments by UN are really reminding us that all the environmental dimensional goals will not be achieved if we're going business as usual. To think about one close to agriculture and food is a biodiversity. This is really the IPBES report. They say the average, an average around 25% of species in distinct, that basically a lot of those will diminish within this decade if we don't take action. We talk about, the chair talked about the emission. We know that even when we account for all the possible measures by government, there's still a huge gap because the global CO2 emission trend has not leveled off. And then I like to hear what he talked about private sector, because with all the unconditional NDCs added together, we still have a huge gap, about 50%, if we want to maintain 1.5 degree by 2030. So we need more people joining the forces than just the people sitting in this room, the private sector and others, the civil society. So I wanted to bring us to the ones that we talk about. Agriculture and food production, everybody cares about today here. But I wanted to conclude saying agriculture and food production, they present both as a problem source, but I believe they are also present a lot of solutions. I know we all believe this. What I wanted to say is that the recent climate change land report by IPCC really said land is a critical resource because food and water, health and well-being are dependent on that, but it's already under growing human pressure. What I wanted to say is that human use directly affects more than 70% of global ice-free land surface. That is an asset to us, but also is a threatening kind of a lot to us how we can carefully manage our land resources. So this is really, I got it from FAO report. With those exploration and desertification, this is something soil pollution from fertilizer and pesticide use. So I don't know, I participated in one of the International Fertilizer Association conference there. They said, oh, everybody blames us as a problem, but we could also bring solutions to the picture. So this is really, you see the alarming increasing intensification of both pesticide and fertilizer use. But we do have room for improvement. I know in the other, I think the statistics shows China, India, US uses about approximately 50% of the world fertilizer. So that's something, huh? But the utilization rate is small. So to conclude, agriculture, food production, and deforestation that also becoming major driving forces of climate change. We know climate change is really adding pressure, but on the other hand, these activities are also feeding back to the climate change that kind of raise them. And then we know that from the UN Environment recent emission gap report says, and we all believe that other reports also says that there is untapped technical potential of all sectors. I put it agriculture here, technical potential is 24%. I believe we have more than that percentage because it's only technical, so there are more things we talk about consumption, others there. So there's a hope, the problem source, but when you look at the food system in a life cycle perspective, from the negative side, we see an inefficiency along the whole system, ranging from seed, and fertilizer, low fertilizer using rate. I just find out that there was only 2 Chinese students who are here. So it's good I use the Chinese case studies because this is where I'm most familiar with. Because mind you, I only joined the UNEP about a year ago, so a lot of the accumulated knowledge was from my past research. So when you look at the seed, most developing countries are rich in nutritious, underutilized biodiversity. And then using China, we have 10% of global plant biodiversity, but endangered, yet more than 800 edible wild plant species are cataloged. So there's a potential. Fertilizer use, I'm using China again. The China's fertilizer utilization rate is only 35%. And our world average, developed countries, 50 to 60, and some countries 70, 80, and even reaching 90 if you're positioned fertilization. So there's room for improvement where we have the problem here. And yesterday I enjoyed the other is I wanted to say the UN Environment Frontier Report also said that nitrogen fix was, I need to go back. Nitrogen fix is something, but we need people to work together. Not only farmers, industrial sectors, and the standards, and the investors, all those need to contribute to the nitrogen fix efforts. So again, that's a call for, we have a principle and perspective, we need to act together. The other, I heard yesterday's morning a keynote saying about, even this chair this morning saying we have to cross the board, get into the food consumption. So this is something we say the reports is having the current meat consumption is some argument, and also having food waste. We know food waste has been enormous, especially as income goes up. But I wanted to say, I said in March in one of the conferences, when Lancet published a paper says, if we turn everybody into vegetarian, that potential of reducing emission is 80%, then technical potential of 20-something%. I don't buy that one because I know a lot of developing countries, people, especially children, are malnourished. So there is no one size fits all, but efforts need to be made here. So I was making a very confrontational remark when the Lancet published that one. And someone pointed, hey, you don't sound like a UN. I said, well, what UN means, But anyway, so what I wanted to get into, all those kind of global view and the current dilemma there, I believe we have a common understanding there. There's more solutions than problem exist, but need to have integrated policies, institutions, incentives, and governances in place. Not by saying, but it's easy to recognize it, but very difficult to work on that. And I saw there's a programs, and a lot of people here went to the Climate Action Summit in New York. And one of the one that we linked to very most closely is the nature-based solutions. We know that is a cost-effective for climate mitigation adaptation, but where, when we say nature-based solutions contribute to 30% of a climate mitigation, but we only receive 3% of the investment. That's the contrast, right? So we need to work hard. But science technology, of course, because most of us here are scientists. I'm no longer a scientist, although I wanted to be a scientist. But science and technology innovation are critical for making transformational change. I wanted to point out one. All the calling is for coordinated and multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary efforts for innovation and transformation. But the situation is not that rosy. We know SDGs is really a network of targets, and one connected to each other. When you look at the exercise using one indicator linked to others, they divided the coupling into 7 scales. Some are indivisible, and some are counseling. So we needed really the nexus and holistic approach, which is not easy. You know, the working across the border, as a cross borders, is not that easy. You know, we are so comfortable in our own comfort zone. So when we trying to do, because as the chair already introduced, we are a South-South cooperation platform, we are trying to use nexus approaches to address several interlinked problems. I put it one here is a climate ecosystem livelihood, because we are trying to say using ecosystem-based approaches to help the developing countries to adapt to the climate change, to improve their livelihood. We wanted to change the vicious circle, poverty, ecosystem degradation, climate change, and shifting from sectoral approach to nexus approach. See, what's the situation? When we did a Google search, the 3 keywords, single ecosystems, climate change ecosystem, and livelihoods, when you see all 3 added together, how many publications in total? You know, between 2015 and 2019, we made some progress, but still far from enough of this nexus approach. This is a challenge. So we think we need to work together, but not many are happening. So of course, this is a publication. So, but we're happy to announce here we work in more than 20 countries using this nexus approach, trying to address some of the issues, but acting on the ground implementation. Again, I want to bring some, because we are here talking about not only concept, but actions, and proven actions that we can see whether there's a room for scaling up. In China, in our programs, we did something that we proved to be good to improve the resilience on the empowering farmers. For example, we did the PPB and PVB and community seed bank and setting up, and trying to help the farmers to, through biodiversity conservation and enhance and seed system enhancement and build the resilience. At the same time, we link them up to the support system and making this agroecology as a circular farming, because that's also the way that traditionally Chinese were good at. But we should not forget about the traditional knowledge. As traditional knowledge alone will not make it work, because now it's a more dynamic and complex world we're going to go. So linking those, the ancient wisdom with the scientific knowledge, that would help the farmers to transform to green economy. One I have not said, I don't know how many people said here, China is an example who made off-farm employment had been approved an effective way of climate change adaptation and poverty alleviation. So one aspect, I know a lot of people talking about gender, the case in China proves that women are seed keepers and production food producers. In China, 68 farmers, women are working farming sector. So we say women holding up half of the sky, but here is more than half of the agriculture sector. And they, of course, play a significant role on the healthy diet preparation. And then right now we have a joint project with UNEP, UN Women, IFAD China, that really trying to work with local government to strengthen the women seed system. But here I wanted to bring up one is that we are helping them, empowering women farmers by training them use a smartphone how to package their products to sell. They never done that. So I think they were very happy about what we gave them. The off-farm employment one, I don't want to go a little bit further, because from 78 to now, that China is moving up from less than 20% of people working in the farming off-farm sector, now about more than 70. That reduced the rural poverty from nearly 97, 98% to less than 2%, of course, plus other functions. But one of the things I wanted to say, gender. You know, women are catching up, but women are more staying in agriculture sectors. It confirms the other statistic. The highlight I wanted to put in here is education plays a very significant role in all the kind of stages of the off-farm employment. If you get a good education, good training, you'll get a better off-farm job and a better paid. So the final words I wanted to say is that I don't have time to elaborate. The first word I wanted to say, human capital foundation is a precondition of all what we're talking. So I wanted to use the example again with my study because in China, before I joined the UN, I worked in 10 years on rural education and early childhood development. We know, early childhood development is one of the effective way of breaking into generational poverty cycle. But you see a huge gap between rural and urban. That's the one. The second is that with the modern technologies, we need people to be more educated in order to acquaint new technology and transform into smart, climate-smart agriculture. So I don't want to prolong that one. But empowering farmers, especially women, will be a fundamental in building resilient agriculture and food system. I don't want to say further because the figures and tables already elaborate that. Traditional knowledge matters, but we need modern science and technology to coupling them up. So, and coordinated efforts need nexus approach for transformational change, but thinking and acting outside the box is a must and not easy. So the final word I wanted to say is thinking globally, but we really, really need to act locally. Thank you very much.